Good day, virtual learners. Welcome to our second virtual meeting in our oral communication class. It's me again, and I hope you are excited for today's discussion because we will learn something very much interesting that this will not only be applied on classroom discussions but on our daily lives as well, as we deal with different relationships and different people. Last virtual meeting, we learned about the definition of communication, its elements, and the communication models. And hopefully, this was more explained by your respective teachers during your class discussions. I want to see your heart reactions if you are ready. As what was promised last meeting, I have already mentioned the topics to be discussed today, which are types of nonverbal messages, effective communication skills, and intercultural communication. And with this, these are the expected competencies we wish to develop. Explains why there is a communication breakdown and uses various strategies in order to avoid communication breakdown. A quick recap of what is nonverbal communication. This refers to an interaction where behavior is used to convey and represent meanings. When we communicate things that we care about, we do it mainly using non-verbal signals. Wordless communication includes facial expressions, body movement, and gestures. Eye contact, posture, the tone of your voice, and even your muscle tension and breathing. The way we look, listen, move, and react to another person tells them more about how we are feeling than words alone ever can. Developing the ability to understand and use nonverbal communication can help you connect with others, express what you really mean, navigate challenging situations, and build better relationships at home and at work. Noting these forms, you would try to categorize later on to what type of nonverbal message they belong. The first type is proxemics. It is the study of man's use and perception of his space. According to Edward Hall, it is the study of people's space as a special elaboration of culture. Though at the time of the pandemic, we are all aware that we should observe at least 1 meter apart as part of the social distancing. But on an ordinary day without viruses, we can tell the relationship of people through their distance. Try to look at these photos and observe. The first one is a picture of a mother and a child. How can we describe their proximity? It's very close, right? This could be the same with what other relationship? What do you think? Of course, with couples and with your loved ones as well. How about the second photo? This might be not moving, but we can tell that they might be friends or close friends. Looking all casual, smiling, at the same time, try to look at their distance. Isn't it the same when you are together with your friends? The third photo shows a group who looks like they're working on something. We may consider them as colleagues, while the last photo are people who are strangers in a public place. And we can see that they do not share any connection. The next illustration shows us that we observe different distances or spaces depending on our crowd or the person or group we are with. For intimate distance, we observe 0 to 18 inches with our core family members and our partners. We may say, gaano ba ka-close? While personal distance observes 18 inches to 4 feet with our friends and extended family. For the social distance, it is a 4 to 10 feet shared with acquaintances and colleagues, and 10 feet for public distance to strangers or passersby. Of course, being in a public transport like the LRT or MRT is an exception, being cramped like sardines inside a very hot and humid wagon. For our next type, we have kinesics. It is the study of the body's physical movements, which include gestures, posture, head and hand movement, or whole body movements. Here, it is with significance to note how important your body movements are during communication because it already gives meaning. Body movements can be used to reinforce or emphasize what a person is saying and also offer the emotions and attitudes of a person. Let's try to see some examples. In terms of posture, we have what we call open and closed posture. Try to imagine this situation. A person sitting directly facing with you with hands apart resting on the armchair. This kind of sitting position communicates what? Openness or interest, and even confidence, and a readiness to listen. While the closed posture where one is sitting with arms folded, legs crossed or positioned in a slight angle implies discomfort or disinterest. You may try to observe this next time you try to talk with someone. This next illustration presents different sitting positions. I know you can already create different impressions of the person based on how he was seated there. We can see some relaxed and comfortable sitting positions to one that is very tense and defensive. We all know that eye contact plays an important role in the communication process. As they say, the eyes is the window of the soul. That one may be smiling but it doesn't reach the eyes, or one can be caught lying by how his or her eyes behave. This photo shows that what particular processing a person is doing by just the movement of her eyes, that it can tell when one is accessing her feelings, try to recall or constructed or remembered sounds or images, or when a person is trying to visualize something. Just look on their eyes. Our hands play a vital role to send meaning. Try to observe these hand gestures, majority of which you might be familiar. The thumbs up sign could mean okay. The second gesture is a peace sign. We have a hand gesture for silence, for whispering, and a lot more. And I know you have a lot in your mind to add on this list. And there are a lot of different meanings to discover if you get more familiar with different body movements and gestures. Next type is chronemics. Chronemics is a study of how human beings communicate through their use of time. It helps us understand how people perceive and structure time and their dialogues and relationships with others. We attempt to control time, trying to use it more effectively. Good timing is very crucial in terms of preparing and rehearsing for a formal presentation until it is a little underlined, because staying within the time limit is a mark of courtesy and professionalism. Chronemics refers to a communication-based understanding of time. These understandings vary from culture to culture and person to person. In American culture, they have more strict understanding of time, meaning that if they set a work meeting for 10 a.m., it would be extremely rude to arrive 40 minutes late, whereas in many Latin or South American countries, arriving late would be quite normal or even expected. How about Filipino time? Maybe we're all aware that when we say Filipino time, it pertains to the tardiness of Filipinos during occasions or how we expect that a certain program hosted by Filipinos to start late. So they will decide to come late for the event. We know this is a bad habit and we have the control to avoid this. Fourth type is haptics, which refers to ways in which people and animals communicate and interact via the sense of touch. So see, your hands is very powerful to provide meaning because it is the most sophisticated and intimate of the five senses. It gives emotional impact of the message as well. It is used to communicate affection, familiarity, sympathy, and other emotions. That is why you need to be careful on whom to touch because you might be giving the wrong signals. You have to be careful. It can be in the form of a handshake, a shoulder pat, or a hug. Last on my list is the paralanguage. This relates to all aspects of the voice which are not strictly part of the verbal message, including the tone and pitch of the voice, the speed and volume at which a message is delivered, and pauses and hesitations between words. These signals can serve to indicate feelings about what is being said. Emphasizing particular words can imply whether or not feedback is required. One good example is whenever your mother calls your name. I know for sure she has these variations. You would know whether she is in the good mood or bad mood based on how she calls you. It can be extra sweet when she calls you to taste what she prepared for dinner or breakfast, or too loud when you forgot to wash the dishes. See, I know you agree with me. Being familiar with the different types of nonverbal messages helps us achieve to send our messages effectively. So what are the features of an effective communication now? We will discuss the 7 C's of effective communication by Broom-Cutlip 2012. First C is completeness. Complete communication is essential to the quality of the communication process in general. Hence, communication should include everything that the receiver needs to hear for him or her to respond, react, or evaluate properly. Conciseness. Conciseness does not mean keeping the message short, but making it direct or straight to the point. Insignificant or redundant information should be eliminated from the communication that will be sent to the recipient. 3. To be effective, the speaker should always be considerate, which is relevant about his or her receiver, such as mood, background, race, preference, education, status, and needs, among others. By doing so, he or she can easily build rapport with the audience. Fourth is concreteness. Effective communication happens when the message is concrete and supported by facts, figures, and real-life examples and situations. In this case, the receiver is more connected to the message conveyed. Fifth is courtesy. The speaker shows courtesy in communication by respecting the culture, values, and beliefs of his or her receivers. Being courteous at all times creates a positive impact on the audience. Clearness. Clearness in communication implies the use of simple and specific words to express ideas. It is also achieved when the speaker focuses only on a single objective in his or her speech so as not to confuse the audience. 7. Correctness. Correctness in grammar eliminates negative impact on the audience and increases the credibility and effectiveness of the message. It is important that we should be constantly conscious to take note of these 7 features in order to achieve effective communication. These features of effective communication should also be observed in dealing with other cultures. Based on the stories from the past, the Philippines had been colonized by different foreign rulers at the same time. We had been acquainted with their culture as well. That eventually some of their practices were able to influence our culture right now. Considering this modern period and the availability of technology, a lot of us have become fond of going to different countries. Or through the Korean dramas some of you might have become acquainted with, the Korean culture. Same with those who are fond of reading mangas or watching anime, you are now familiar with Japanese culture. While some of us was able to interact with different nationalities, whether online or face-to-face, and we can call that as intercultural communication. Intercultural communication happens when individuals interact, negotiate, and create meanings while bringing in their varied cultural backgrounds. For some scholars, intercultural communication pertains to communication among people from different nationalities. Still, others look at intercultural communication as communication that is influenced by different ethnicities, religions, and sexual orientations. Moreover, this facet of communication can also be seen as a bargain understanding of human experiences across diverse societies. Simply put, intercultural communication is the sending and receiving of messages across languages and cultures. Sometimes, intercultural communication can flow smoothly and become very interesting for a cross-cultural group. However, things may not go as planned when communication is disrupted by cultural collisions. When you speak, your speech is continuously accompanied by gestures, facial expressions, and other body movements that add to what you are saying in different ways. For example, we all know that nodding means yes. It is also the same in the Indian subcontinent, Iran, most of Europe, Latin America, and North America. However, in Greece, Lebanon, Syria, Palestine, Turkey, Macedonia, Bulgaria, and Albania, nodding indicates disagreement. How about the thumbs up? In Australia, USA, United Kingdom, Canada, Russia, it is a sign of approval. But in Latin America, West Africa, Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, in other parts of the world, this is seen as an appears. How about the crossed fingers? The crossed fingers to Australia, USA, UK, and Canada would mean it is wishing someone good luck. While in Vietnam, crossed fingers are said to resemble female genitals, hence this gesture is seen as a lewd. V sign. In the USA, it is a harmless backward sign for peace. So it means peace. Even whenever we attend a church, we always say, do this one whenever there is peace be with you. But in Australia, UK, Ireland, New Zealand, it is seen as rude and frequently used as to signify contempt or defiance towards authority. How about the come here? In Australia, USA, UK, Canada, gesture is used to motion somebody to come over. While in the Philippines, considered highly offensive when motioned to another person as this gesture is reserved for dogs. It is therefore important for you to acknowledge and understand the many communication patterns present in other cultures. In World Bank, it identifies the following traits that define a competent intercultural communicator. He or she should observe flexibility and the ability to tolerate high levels of uncertainty. Number 2, reflectiveness or mindfulness. 3, open-mindedness. 4, sensitivity. 5, adaptability. 6, ability to engage in divergent or creative thinking and systems level thinking, or thinking how each one in a system or organization influence each other. And last, politeness. I hope you have enjoyed our discussion for this morning. Let's have our question and answer time. You may comment your questions as well so that we will take note and answer them next meeting, or you may raise those questions during your class discussion. What could be the first question? How can I improve my nonverbal skills? Believe it or not, being familiar with nonverbal messages is considered a skill. You can improve that by being a keen observer to your surroundings. At the same time, this may be useful during a report or a public speaking engagement or a job interview. Often, we might feel nervous or experience a stage fright. We can use positive body language to signal confidence or advantage, even though we are not feeling it. How about the next question? How can we achieve effective communication? Aside from taking note of the 7 C's of effective communication enumerated a while ago, I have 4 more tips to achieve effective communication. Number 1, whether you are the sender or the receiver, it is important that you should establish and maintain eye contact. 2, try to send a clear message. 3, be receptive to what others say. And last, for the 4th one, wait for the other person to finish speaking and wait for your turn to speak. Because as we have discussed, communication is a two-way process. It is a give and take between talking and listening, a sharing of who is a speaker and who is a listener based on mutual respect and caring about each other's feelings. Third question, how to avoid cultural barrier and talking with people of different culture. First is we need to be familiar with the person's culture and language so that we will know how to communicate with them effectively and avoid misunderstanding as well. At the same time, know some basic greetings spoken in their language so that we can establish connection with them. Since it is a known fact that it is a Filipino trait that we are hospitable and adaptable, this task would be easy for us. So for our next meeting, we will discuss about the types of communicative strategy. On your modules, you may now answer additional activity number 3, nonverbal communication, additional activity number 5, effective communication skills, and on your Unit 1, Lesson 2, additional activity number 1, intercultural communication. See you on our next virtual meeting. Happy learning! Goodbye!